Well, hello friends, welcome back to the next installment of my Decorate With Me series. My name is Alessandra, and today we are going to be continuing on our almost decorate-a-thon, if you will, going through some of the amazing balls, parties, soirees that we see in the first season of Bridgerton. Now, just for context, this ball that we're seeing, to my knowledge, is not a named ball. It's not like Lady Danbury's ball or whatnot. So I'm making my own up. But this is the inspiration. We see it in episode 3, and it's most known, I think, for our introduction of Prince Friedrich. So that scene, if you remember that, I don't want to spoil it for anybody if you haven't seen it yet, but that's the ball that we're talking about. Now, truthfully, there's not a huge amount of screen time here, but like what we did see in this picture here, lots of crystals, gold, but there's a lot of birds. There's peacocks, there's bird cages, there's also kind of a rose wall. There's a little bit of screen time that we saw at the intro of this ball. We see exotic birds and parrots, I guess, on display. I'm sure there's a handler for them. We also see this beautiful floral wall in the background here behind Simon quite a bit, with this kind of peachy coral wall paint. It's paint on the wall, and then that kind of sets the kind of beautiful warmth in the room. It's not quite terracotta, it's definitely a peachy corally color. And then we have this moment here where we see the centerpiece of the dance floor with these beautiful sculptural peacocks, and the whole base pedestal that they're on are in creams and peaches and corals. And I thought, definitely not color palette that I normally work around, but I really like where they are taking this. More scenes, you see, beautiful gold bird cages with exotic birds in the background, and then these two being a whole nude. They're here, they got another bird cage behind them, but I thought this moment in this scene, you have kind of everything here all at once. You've got the birds, the gold, the crystal, the rose in the background, the coral, the peach. I mean, you really kind of have it all. So I was like, this is where we're going to take this. So I'm calling this my Gilded Peacock Summer Soiree. Obviously, you can turn this into a wedding, a birthday party, a dinner party, whatever you want. But the highlights of this look are peach, a little bit of dark teal, gold, and crystal accents. So our Gilded Peacock Summer Soiree, what does that look like for us? Florals. These are the florals that I'm most interested in working with. There are lots of peaches, creams, corals, a little bit of everything layered in here. Now I'm using florals that I found at Shop Wild Things, and you can get florals from a lot of places. I've just purchased for them for years. I've enjoyed them. I'm not a paid partner or anything like that. And so when you see links to them, or any of the links really where I found any of the products that you're going to see in this, which are all in the description down below, just know that these are just ones that I found that make sense for the look that I'm designing. And I hope you find them helpful if you're trying to DIY this yourself, or if you're trying to bring it to a designer and have them do it for you. Okay, so the florals that we're using are everything between, we've got these beautiful peonies here that are single stem, the bunches of them. We've got them in a couple different colors. Same with the hydrangeas, a nice cream bouquet, a nice cream and pink, just to kind of have a little bit of brightness in there. And then, of course, we've got some roses with this beautiful garland here that we're seeing, along with these kind of two-tone cream and pink roses, which are beautiful. 3 heads per stem. Very, very pretty. And we can do a lot with that. The reason it's important to talk about the florals is because, of course, we saw this beautiful floral wall, which I'm assuming are roses or something in the background here, but they don't have to be roses when you recreate this yourself. They can be whatever you want. So taking this picture here as inspiration, I love a good backdrop wall, and it's something easy that you can buy as a kit and just boop, pop it right up. You can't go wrong with some of these greenery walls. And so again, links to everything I'm using down below. This is an 8-foot greenery wall. Now, probably not to scale with all the flowers, but the important takeaway here is you can take anything from hydrangeas to peonies to roses, whatever you want, And you can, you know, if they're silk, you can, or even if they're real, you can just pop them into most greenery walls with no problem, because that's what helps elevate the greenery walls and take them to the next level. So in this instance, what we're seeing is a collection of the peonies in the two different colors, the cream and pink, and then this more peachy coral color staggered in, just to create this kind of nice contrast, kind of like what we see here, but in a slightly different manner. Obviously, they're not natural in the same way that natural roses are growing up a vine, but we try and do what we can to make them pretty. Now, of course, if you're using real fresh flowers, whether they're roses, peonies, hydrangea, whatever, if you put them in the right size water tube, you should be able to put the water tube through the greenery wall and secure in the back. But if you haven't done that before, do a test run beforehand, because every wall and flower tube combination is different. So what do we have next? Next, we have that wall taken to the next level, and this is what I would want to see in a more polished setting. So we're talking about having the continuation of the wall a little bit nicer framed. We don't want your hardware showing. So combining it with a pipe and base backdrop kit with coral curtains that you see here, that kind of represents the corally peach wall that we see in the show. So that just kind of helps expand the presence as well. So if we're going to go through all the time, money, and effort of setting this up, not that they're really that hard to set up, but truthfully, after you've done them once or twice, they go up super quick. And if it's their first time putting up a backdrop wall, still, they go together really easily. But all the same, if you're going to go through all that effort, whether it's in your own home, in a venue, outside on a golf course or whatever, you want to make sure it has the right impact. So while you could leave it just like this and be perfectly fine and it would look lovely, especially if you had like a baby's first birthday and you put their high chair in front of it and they have their cute little tutus, if you wanted something a little bit more impactful to really go, wow, that's great, having something like these sheer curtains next to it is going to help flank it and frame it beautifully. And then continuing on, keeping that layered greenery look in here, kind of like what we see in the inspiration pictures, where there's just layers of beautiful things on top of beautiful things. We have these 5-foot rose trees. Now these are also from Shop Wild Things. They're super fabulous, and you can put them on risers if you want them to be taller than 5 feet, but I picked these because of two reasons. One, they're cream, so they're going to have a nice contrast on our peachy backdrop here. And two, the bases on these, those are interchangeable, in that means that these branches, if you want to change them out, and you, or let's say you buy this tree for this look and you're like, okay, it's great, I love it, but then in a couple months you have another theme that you want to redo, instead of buying a whole other tree and having to store it, you can just pop out these branches, and they sell essentially replacement branches that you can put in and recreate a whole new tree and not have to buy a brand new tree and pay for shipping and all that stuff every time. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this, because if you're like, oh, this is cool, but what am I going to do with this? Well, you could really do a lot with it if you buy the replacement branches and switch it out to whatever style you want. But moving on, I like the idea of having these fun boxwood kissing balls at the bottom. You could put, I mean, any number of things in there. Some basic moss could go in there. Some of the, you know, the green astroturf, if you did a nice carpet liner in front of this whole area, just as a nice big greenery area, that could be beautiful too. Whatever makes sense for your budget and your space. But you want to make sure at the bottom of the tree bases, as well as any hardware that you're seeing for the backdrops, gets hidden, because that's really what makes everything look just that much nicer. And so continuing on that discussion about the trees. So this is one of the basic trees that they have. And I went ahead and found these beautiful interchangeable branches that they offer on their website. I went ahead and took it and tried to line it up to as many of the branches as I could while scaling it, so you could get in a sense of, if you took these branches out, added these branches in, not that it would look exactly like this one here, but it would look very similar. So remember, this is a 5-foot tree, all the beautiful roses and everything up here. So I thought, okay, what can we can do more with that. I want to do more with that. And so this, boom, Easy, easy centerpiece. You don't have to fuss with fresh florals. You can literally just stick it on the table with a little bit of greenery around the bottom, some votives, and you are done. Like, this is probably the easiest centerpiece I've ever done, but it can be really, really impactful because look how tall it is, look how gorgeous it is. And just kind of talking through this a little bit more with you guys so you understand. We put this tree, which is 5 feet, so it's going to have a nice skinny base like this. So your guests, if they're sitting at a round table, are going to be able to see very well with minimal line of sight problems. And then I went ahead and I added this juniper. I'm not sure if you can see it easily. Here, let me dig it over here for you. This is a garland that they sell that I cropped. But it's a nice juniper garland, green layers in here. I like how there's the contrast between the brighter, lighter green, the darker green, as you would see in nature. And so that was the thought of wrapping around the tree base a little bit, having it be nice and fluffed in there, and then of course having some cute votives like these gold crystal ones that I found. And Shop Wildlings has these in several sizes, from votives all the way up to larger, I think 9-12 inch size ones. So I'll link to all the ones that I use below, but these are a really nice addition to add the crystal without being too over the top. I decided against adding anything else in here. I had half a mind to have some hanging gold bird cages, like small little ones that I found online in here, but it just doesn't need it. It's simple and elegant, and I think that's sometimes the best. It's simple and elegant. Alright, so we have one of our round tables. Easy, very simple. This is going up in less than 15 minutes. And then I thought, okay, well, if we have an estate table, which is often what designers refer to when they're talking about a rectangular table. Sometimes if it's a wider one, it could be considered a king's table, but for all intents and purposes, we'll just say a rectangle table. So we have one here, again, a simple ivory linen. You do not need to have crazy over-the-top linens to have a gorgeous party. And then I went ahead and just created this image of all of these juniper garlands going from the floor on one end to the floor on the other end, creating a nice lush runner. Again, doesn't have to be super fussy and over the top. And then I went ahead and found these beautiful gold, literally gold peacocks, and they're a statue set, and I found them, and the links are all in the description if you really want to recreate this yourself. But this is here just to inspire you. But I loved that there were peacocks, but they weren't the over-the-top traditional peacock colors with all the rich tones, which are gorgeous, and there's a time and a place for that. But I didn't want this to be that moment here, so we're sticking with beautiful gold peacocks, and that's going to be our focus. That's going to be our beautiful kind of centerpiece set in all this greenery if we need it. And then I love these every time I see these are chandeliers, but with electrical chandeliers, not candles, from Shop Wildlings, but they have such this fantastic vintage cage vibe. I love them so much, and I thought, man, if I had the opportunity just to hang these, whether it was with the same type of backdrop kit, a pipe and drape kit, if you wanted to do that, you could hang these over a table. I mean, these are just so pretty, and I think they would really lend themselves to the vibe of this party. But it's hard to imagine when you're just, looking at it. Obviously everything looks good here, so I thought, okay, well, let's kind of complete this look in our head and see if we took this to the next level, what would that look like? And that brings us here. Keeping the cohesiveness, I added the same peachy corally curtains from earlier, added them in, because this could be a beautiful head table if this was a wedding. This was the birthday party. This could be a very, very beautiful intimate dining table. You could probably even expand this out even longer into a super long table, and it would be very easy, very inexpensive with simple. These are just basic ivory poly tablecloths that I found online. And then you spend your money wisely on the parts that are unique and make it stand out. So in this instance, we have the centerpiece, we have the cool candelabras, and I put just the clusters of little peonies up here just for that type, like just a little bit of elegance without being too over the top. And then of course layering in just a few florals. I don't think this needs a lot. So we use that peach rose garland, some peonies in here, just scatter them ever so slightly over the top. So we've got a beautiful state table, and we've done a nice tall tabletop, which we saw here, which we've discussed how, I like to have a beautiful tall one, a nice low one, and then a little bit more simple one. So that's what brings us to this one. And it doesn't really do it justice, I think, in this picture. If you had a simple ivory tablecloth, a little bit of juniper garland at the bottom, some beautiful lush bright pink peachy corally cream hydrangeas, and then this beautiful candelabra holder in the middle. It's very, same type of stuff as these here, just in a larger setting. That's gonna look really nice. And when you put it in a room like this, boom, you can see how this all makes sense together. So what else does an event like this require, whether it was a wedding or something you were having at home? Because this could very easily be a home dinner party. Obviously, if you're doing this at home, you don't need all three of these looks, but let's say you were doing this tablescape or this tablescape, because a lot of people have round tables. Very easy to do, very attainable, no floral designer being needed. But what makes events like these and moments like these look really great? Usually it's the details. And so in this instance, I chose to really layer on the colors that we're trying to do here. So again, we've got the peach, so we're going to see that present here in the peach napkins with the gold. So these are beautiful, actually plastic chargers in gold with a peacock pattern on them, just for you need some texture on the tables if you're going to have a simple linen like this. So that's where we help bring in texture, is the chargers. And then if you had a regular everyday white china set that you use, this could be, you don't need anything else to add on to this if you don't want to. A charger with your white plate and a peach napkin on top of it could be perfect. And then I did see these fantastic napkin rings, and I'm going to put them over here, make them bigger, but they're jeweled. So obviously I love them. They're gold and they're peacock colors without being overtly peacock, which is what I was trying to avoid doing. So they're perfect for this look. They're gonna have that nice little bling that's gonna kind of bring everything together, especially with the crystals that we see here in the votives. So I'll put them back in here. And then I saw them, and I saw this other picture of them, and I thought, with the napkin done up like that, I mean, that's perfect. That's gonna look so great on these tables, so I wanted to include that. And then I included these, and this is just a little tea light holder, birdcage, gold, ornate, looks very pretty, could very easily have been seen in this episode. And then I thought, this is so actually, if you recall earlier, I was talking about hanging them from trees. This is what I saw originally, but I was like, let's assume that they're smaller. I don't think it needs it. I think it looks pretty great how it is. Simple and elegant and layered. And that's what we're doing here with the chargers and the napkins and all that we're bringing in the texture in with all of these details, like the crystals and the napkin rings and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty great. But then I was like, okay, well, if this was a wedding, potentially you would have some sort of buffet table potentially, or a dessert bar, and truthfully you would probably have a buffet of some sort if this was in your home, whether it was a birthday party, a soiree, a dinner party, I mean, you name it, you probably have some sort of buffet, right? So now it turned into a rabbit hole and now we have all of this, and this is a lot of stuff, so don't worry, we're going to tone it down a little bit, we're going to edit it out, but there's just so much great stuff if you wanted to go down this vibe and this path that you could do that is still elegant and contemporary, but still in my mind it really looks like it could have been part of that episode to a certain extent. So let's just get started with the obvious teal polyester basic tablecloth. I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's very simple, but it's very impactful when you were layering on things like this gold that we have here. And the reason I wanted to keep with the gold was because one, it goes perfectly with the theme and I love it. And two, gold or golden white like you see here and here, those are things that if you bought for your collection because you were like, wow, this platter, this two-tier platter is beautiful. I love the gilded branches and the bird element. And they're so cute. That's great. If you bought this, you could use this for multiple occasions because it's not teal. You can use gold and white in almost anything, So I try, and when I'm thinking of these things, especially when you guys might want to buy these elements, I have that in my mind of like, okay, what would be more one-time use versus what is something that could be a better investment maybe up front that you could use again and again and again. So that's why you see some of the things you see here. So let's talk about that. So the tablescape as we have it here, I mean, obviously I found these metal peacock statues. So this is one that's just a regular statue, and then this is one, I don't know if you could tell right here, there's a little solar bank on it. And I was like, that's pretty cool. If you were going to put them outside as like an entrance or something, that could be great. It could also look really cool with the, like the photo wall or something if you wanted to throw them in there. I mean, depends what you're into. So those are here. And then I love having more vertical displays on my buffet tables, whether it's for savory or sweets. Excuse me. And so that's why you see things like these cage stands here. We have a 3-tier and a 2-tier. And essentially it's a cage with the front half of the cage missing. And then that way you could put little cupcakes or desserts or whatever on there. And that helps add to the elevation of the table. And I have this fantastic, let me see if I can take it out and show you. Look at this textured cake stand. So pretty, lightly references the peacock tail in my opinion here. And then it's going to add texture to the table. Obviously we saw this kind of tiered bird stand. It's 2 tiers, gold branches, beautiful birds to go with the bird theme. We have this swan bird holder here that actually is made to hold silverware or gold silverware in this instance, so you need to have that, of course. And then this little cute bowl I found, it's a little trio of bowls hanging like a little nest, and there's a little bird looking over it. And I thought, oh, that's cute. And then we also have things like this simple but pretty gold peacock platter or bowl. And then keeping along the branches, some nice servingware with some branches that are gold on them, and things like this bowl here that could easily have, whatever snacks or whatever, the grab and go stuff. And then I did find this caged tier that goes in the back here that I put, behind the peacock a little bit. But it's very similar to the caged tier stands that we have here. But they were selling it as a fruit stand. But I thought, if you put little baggies together, like to go, I don't say favors, but yeah, I mean favors, anything that's kind of odd shape or something, you might be able to fit them in there, and it could be a really cute little station for your party favors, depending on what that looks like, if that made sense for your event. And then, of course, I found this, which would be more if you were just doing maybe one table and you wanted a little something extra fancy. This beautiful kind of like a cornucopia, if you will, shaped bowl, but it's a peacock in a nice off-white cream with gold accents, and it was selling as a fruit bowl on mine, which makes sense. It's very pretty. It would look beautiful on any table, but that's a lot of stuff. So let's, I want to edit it down a little bit. So that brings us here. So this is my final thing, my final design, if you will, and I would be amiss if I didn't mention this big piece in the back here that you see. That is actually a peacock inspired fireplace stand, or not stand, but what do they call them? I don't know, we live in Florida, we don't have fireplaces, but it's meant to go kind of like guard your fireplace from all the stuff coming in and out of it. So that you saw here, we saw it here, it's in the back, but I thought that's a nice backdrop for the buffet table. And whether this is, again, a cake table, a dessert table, a savory table, this could be a really pretty design as is. Nothing else is needed. But I'm me and I like a little bit of extra. So if it made sense to go a little extra, what I would consider is this bright peachy coral hydrangea flower wall. And these are the panels that I found online. And obviously I'm making the giant version myself, so that's why you're seeing all the patterns. But if you bought it and set it up like normal, you wouldn't, you wouldn't see all of this. This is just my graphics being newbie level, I suppose. But I made myself a floral wall image using these hydrangea, and this is, another probably 8-foot wall or something depending on the size of their table. But boom, now I think this looks great. But looking at this, you have a nice pop of contrast with the peach. You have the teal in the darker color, and then you have the beautiful golden white. Timeless, goes with everything. And then you have that extra little pop with the peacocks in here, just as a little accent on the table. This is a very, very pretty and simple buffet table design for any occasion, and probably can look nice in just about any venue. So we are done with the buffet, and we've kind of talked about all sorts of elements if this was a party situation. But what I wanted to talk about just ever so briefly was, what if you were just like Alessandra? I love this theme. I love the gold, the white, the teal, the peach. How do I combine that together? And so I thought, while I'm looking and I'm seeing all these great things, if I was just kind of having a home dinnerware collection building off of this would probably be the start of it. And I love it because of the colors and the texture. Something that gets me every time. So we have these kind of emerald plates. It's a whole dinnerware set, but I love almost that kind of punched, hammered look, the textured porcelain with the gold rims. And then while those are the green like you would see in a peacock, we have a little bit of blue teal here in a very similar design with a tiered display. So if these are on your counter or something, you could have fruit out, you could have your bagels, your muffins, whatever, grab and goes. Very, very pretty and very, very defined. And then of course, if you just needed a simple centerpiece that you could leave up all the time, I love this type of simple statue. It's not going to take up a lot of space on your dining room table, but it's beautiful, it's elegant. The gold peacock, it's very pretty. And then I found these wine glasses, and I love the green to blue ombre. It's peacock without being overtly peacock. And I thought, if we just needed a little something at home to kind of brighten our spirits, refresh our kitchens or dining room tables or whatever, this is probably where I would get started, keeping in mind all of these themes that we've been really designing around today. And so that concludes this next edition of the Decorate With Me series. I've enjoyed making this. I hope you've enjoyed watching them. Make sure you check out my playlist, because this is, I guess, the fourth one-ish, depending on how you count, that I've done, not to mention all of the DIY Bridgerton stuff. So there's a whole playlist on my channel, so if you're into Bridgerton or that era, or just styling in general for event or home design, make sure you check out my playlist for that, because you are going to love some of the other stuff I've created and shared. And make sure you're subscribed, because there is more event design like this coming, Bridgerton and beyond. So make sure you're subscribed, because you're not going to want to miss this. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Alessandra, and I appreciate you joining me in this Decorate With Me series. Until next time, bye friends.